Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, this is going to be a reading on a constitutional amendment to amend the Constitution in response to the Supreme Court's immunity ruling for presidents, and to ensure no president is above the law. Representative Joseph Morelle of New York, who's a top Democrat on the House Administration Committee, sent a letter to colleagues informing them of his intent to file the resolution, which would kickstart what's traditionally a cumbersome amendment process. This amendment will do what SCOTUS failed to do, prioritize our democracy. Okay, so what does that entail? We go down this article here and read it to you. The constitutional amendment process would likely take years. Okay, so it's not an overnight fix. It's going to take years. But that years is key. And in fact, may never come to fruition. True. Supporters believe it's the most surefire way, even beyond a new law, to enshrine the norm that presidents can face consequences for their actions. This amendment will guarantee that no public officer of the United States, including the president, is able to evade accountability that any other American would face for violating our laws. Okay. Now, how does this work? Congress can launch the constitutional amendment process and then send it back to the states for ratification. Such a resolution takes 2/3 votes in both the House and Senate, which is highly unlikely at the time of this divided government. And it requires ratification in 3/4 of the states. There's been 27 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so 3/4 of the states and 2/3 of the House and the Senate. Now you might say to yourself, well, that's got no chance in hell. It's got snowball's chance in hell of getting through, right? The key word is years. Years has to go by. Now, I want you to sort of think about things for a second here. We are living in the here and now, right? Let's say this amendment takes 4 years to go through. Will the Democrats have 67% of the House and 67% of the Senate? Probably not. Probably not. But in 4 years, will Donald Trump even be around? Will he have been held accountable 4 years from now? What about the U.S. senators and congresspeople who were part of the coup? Will we have dealt with some of them or a number of them by this point? They'll be out of Congress and they'll have replacements. What I'm saying is, picture back. Let's put the Wayback Machine 40 years ago, or even 50 years ago. Let's go back to let's go back to 1974 after, say, Nixon was ousted, or something like that. If you had put a constitutional amendment, if the Supreme Court then had ruled that presidents are kings, right after the whole Nixon debacle, do you think that Congress back then would have had a difficult time coming up with a 2/3 majority in the House and Senate saying we do not want kings? Do you think probably this, nobody would have thought to do this, but in 1976, on our 200th anniversary, the bicentennial, can you imagine if they put that in there as a reaffirmation of our desire not to be ruled by kings? Yeah, I think it would have passed. Do you think 3/4 of the states would have voted for that? Sure. Who wouldn't vote for that? Back when things were a little simpler, of course we would have supported that. We'd have supported that up through probably 2016. It would have been a pretty easy amendment. It was never required. Who would have thought that we would have needed such a thing? But here we are now. Wouldn't it be interesting on our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence if we could have an amendment like that? Now, granted, that's still a ways off, because now you're looking at a couple years, but we're right there. 2 years from now, not even 4 years from now, like I was giving, 2 years from now, that would be an amazing 250th birthday present for ourselves. going back and rejecting kings. That might be too aggressive a timeline. But it starts with holding people accountable for the coup and getting all the information out, what happened on January 6th, and dismantling the right-wing echo chambers so that the folks in those echo chambers are getting accurate information so they can make up their mind. And that's what will lead to the process of this amendment going through, if it goes through. But let's read what the cards have to say on the energy. I want to look at the energy of a 28th Amendment to the Constitution that would overturn the Supreme Court ruling. Entertainment purposes only. All right. Foundation of the reading is the Ace of Swords. Yeah, this is very likely going to be our 28th Amendment. Whether it gets passed or not, it'll be proposed as a 28th Amendment. And it's a good amendment. It's an unnecessary amendment. It's an amendment we never thought we would have needed. But apparently, there are some faction of the American people that want a king. And we need to put an end to this fantasy of theirs. I suspect... This smile is never a good sign for folks. I suspect that if the Democrats are fully in charge of the government and, have a majority on the Supreme Court, such that the horrible realization, this whole thing was done to protect one person, Donald Trump, and to protect an ideal of an American authoritarian government and an oligarchy. What happens if the Democrats are controlling all the levers of power? They're the ones who could anoint a king and force their will on others. All of a sudden, the people that might have been really, really keen on presidents being kings may not want King Joe Biden. Just saying. It's all good when it's heads I win, but when instead of tails you lose, it's tails I lose. Something they're not liking the odds anymore. It's the Ace of Swords crossed by the Two of Swords. It's a very uncertain time right now because people are goofy. They are absolutely goofy. Again, we are a divided nation. We are a nation where there are a lot of non-serious politicians in the House, in the MAGA folks. And there has to be a great purge, a big blue wave, if you will, in order to get this thing through. This should not be a difficult prospect. In the past, we have the Eight of Cups. It took the Supreme Court walking away from democracy to bring up something like this. It's a slow, this is the coup. This is that slow rolling coup. And from Trump refusing to peacefully pass along the power to Joe Biden, to all the actions covering up, there's been a massive coup here, and it's in the past, and the Supreme Court has put a capstone on it. Current situation is the Ten of Coins. Part of the problem that we've got here is we have a lot of senators who are bought and paid for by oligarchical money, American oligarch money, to the point where they're willing to turn their back on the Constitution and the great American experiment. The overarching energy is the Six of Swords. Again, we are at a breaking point here. Do we want democracy or do we not want democracy? Investigations need to happen, and those who do not represent democracy need to be removed. But this is also, right now, again, I mentioned at the beginning of this reading, right now is not the time. Now is the time to start this process because it's going to take years. So you're trying to time when this decision time is with when the overall environment is ready for it. It's tumultuous now. It could be much smoother sailing a couple years from now in the future. And you want to time it. If they had started this thing a couple of years ago and it hit the bricks, it hit the floor now, it would never get passed. The lesson to be learned is the Page of Pentacles here. It's about, you need to sell the American ideal back to people. The reason why so many people support this insanity is because it's designed directly to help Donald Trump. Period. End of statement. You need to get people to move past it helping one person and get them thinking like Americans again. It's a good idea, and it's in its nascent stages. And now is a good time to start it. Because if you start the investment now, it can grow to counteract this money later. Outcome is the Two of Wands. Yeah, this proposed amendment is going to continue and proceed. I think I don't know if it requires a vote. Obviously, he can bring this amendment up. The House Republicans, will they let it go to the floor? Who knows? If it comes to the House, who knows? But the House Republicans are probably only in charge for another 6 months, and then after that, it's going to go to the Democrats. Let's do a follow up on that one. Let's move forward to say the end of 2026. That'll be about 2.5 years from now. 2.5 years from now. How might this amendment, this proposed 28th Amendment to the Constitution, be looking? How is its journey, if everything goes according to the energy now, how is its journey looking in the future? Timing. It's looking for that. It's moving forward, looking for that calmer shore. It may not be ready to go at that, but it's making progress on that front. This was the future card, or this is the outcome, and now here we are. It might still be in the planning phase. Still, I think it's still moving forward. It's still in the planning. I shuffled this deck, and I did overhand shuffles and everything. And the Page of Cups underneath. Maybe there's not a whole lot of progress in the next 2 years, but the idea is still there. In the past, you have the Devil card. Okay, this is a key card, and I'm glad it's in the past. Because it, as I was explaining earlier, it requires people to unchain themselves from Donald Trump. If Donald Trump never existed, we wouldn't even be having this debate if presidents should be kings. Right? So if Donald Trump's out of the picture, then all of a sudden people are going to be a lot more amenable to not having presidents be kings. The Republicans may not, but you have to dismantle the current Republican Party so that you don't have a bunch of people that are wannabe authoritarians. Current situation a couple years from now is temperance. Temperance, it's about timing and integration. A couple years from now, they're still making progress on it. It's not ready for prime time yet. It could be that we are still healing from the debacles of Trump and Trumpism. But things are getting better. You don't want to just put it up there and have it fail in a vote. You got to make sure, as Nancy Pelosi says, you have to be able to count. Overarching energy is the Moon card. It's not clear when it's going to happen, probably because there's still some things that need to be discovered or revealed to people in order to get enough senators, House members, and states on board with it. But look at all the major arcana that we've got coming through here. Lesson to be learned is the King of Wands. It was good to start this. It was the right idea to start this. You need to keep pressing forward with it. But you have to be looking down the road and trying to get the timing right. The outcome is the Six of Cups. And the timing that you need, it's not naivety, it's not nostalgia. It is a little bit of both, but people need to be getting along again. They need to want this change. This is a gift this 28th Amendment would be a gift to the American people. But if this child may not appreciate the gift. Maybe all these other ones are attempts to give this child a gift. You have to give it to them when they're ready to receive it. Otherwise, they won't value what it is that you're giving them. They think it's kind of weird. But, sometimes the the child, what do you want in your cup? Do you want a flower or a fish? Right now, it seems like they want a fish in their cup. But maybe one day we'll get them back to wanting a flower in their cup. Their saying is the values are all messed up right now. People are a little bit loopy and loony. They don't know. They want the wrong things, and they're not right thinking in their mind. We need to get them back where there's trust and an understanding that we can get along and that we don't need kings here. I would have loved it if it was the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, because that, you could frame it with that. You could package it with it. It's a patriotic thing to do. We threw off the tyranny of King George, and we don't want another king in the United States. And we want our presidents to be accountable, regardless of their political party. Plain and simple. I didn't think, when I first read this story, I was like, that's going nowhere. But you know what, though, as I started reading on it a little bit, it's like, maybe this thing does have some legs. So that's why I wanted to do a reading on this one. In this time of turmoil that we're in, we need some hope. And take some heart that some of our political leaders are trying to do something about it. I've never heard of this fellow before. What's his name? Hang on for a second. And my apologies to Representative Joseph Morelle of New York. I've never heard of him before. But you know what? 10 years from now, this guy could be like, he could be a top senator or somebody who's the vice president or somebody who could already be president of the United States or running for president of the United States. And, you look back on this video 10 years from now, not that anybody would, it's like, yeah, to me, the average person in California, this guy's kind of a nobody. But, maybe he's actually one of those leaders that we just haven't been introduced to yet. So don't despair. Our leaders are actually doing something about it. It's going to be a long time in coming, but it's because of the way the U.S. is built. 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. This would not have been a difficult thing back in 1976. It's a difficult thing now, but maybe in 4 years, it may not be a difficult thing again. Okay, so go with that. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. I hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.